Hello, this is DoomKrakken. Sorry for taking so long to actually getting to record this video. Lots of stuff in the way, but we will not dwell on that, so let's just get right into it. So as you probably have noticed here, we're starting from where we last left off with the previous video. So we got the same sounds, the same sprites, right? Same Z-script and sound info. And so now what we're actually planning to do here is make it so that way you can independently operate the two weapons that you have in your hand. So that way fire will affect the weapon in your right hand, and alt fire will operate the weapon in your left hand. So let's get right into it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so right here we're actually going to have we're going to start off with this. Let's see. We got the offhand over here. We've got fire over here. So we're going to make a few changes here, and this is what I found in my experimentation is that I had accidentally come across a way to handle this gun like how Proteus handles its Shredder SMGs. Essentially, where if you hold down either of the fire buttons, then you'll fire from either of the guns. But then if you fire both of them, then it will actually stagger the fire automatically. It's honestly the way that I would actually handle firing both weapons in a game. It's a bit more restrictive in that way, but I prefer stagger firing my weapons, and I would probably use that in any projects that would actually that are probably restricted to wielding two of the same exact weapon in in both hands. So, what we're actually going to be doing instead, we're going to actually go for checking if this is actually the alt fire, if this is actually being fired from alt fire instead of the offhand. So it's going to be B alt fire. Oh, come on, I thought I highlighted that. So we're checking for if invoker.baltfire is true. This is the alt fire flag. Alrighty. And then we're going to go and comment this out. We can actually just remove this on all entirely. And then TNT1, A2. I'll explain adding this in a bit, but we're essentially going to go for if invoker.b alt fire. I could have just copied it from there. Then we go for a weapon ready WRF no secondary and WRF no switch. Else a weapon ready WRF no primary WRF no switch. Okay, so notice that in our previous code, what happened is that the weapon altogether did fire a projectile every 2 ticks, right? As denoted over here. But that meant that each gun, when stagger fired, it actually took 4 ticks to operate. Each individual gun took 4 ticks to operate. So that's actually what we're doing right here. So what's happening is that if you're alt firing, then you drop down, it'll take 2 ticks to do that, then it'll delay for another 2 ticks, as outlined here. And while we're doing that, if you're still hitting alt fire, then it's not going to jump back to over here, because we're calling no secondary. That means no alt fire. We're not going to alt fire when this happens. So that means that when you're alt firing, it's still going to take 4 ticks to get back to alt firing, but you can still actually operate the primary fire from here, so that way you can continue getting back over here. So then this will actually force a stagger fire of 2 ticks with a 2-tick delay. So that means it'll essentially be just like the original operation the firearm that we had programmed in the first video. So it's going to be the same thing with the primary fire as well. So we go here, right? It's going to take 2 ticks to do all of this. Well, it's going to do all this, then take 2 ticks. Then it's going to do this, because we're not alt-firing, and then take 2 ticks. So if you're holding fire, it's going to take 4 ticks. If you're holding alt-fire, it'll take 4 ticks. But if you're holding the both of them, I mean, those will each take... Then you'll be able to call this function every 2 ticks, because it will jump from here immediately to go over here instead of dealing with this delay. There's another thing that I wanted to do over here. So we got our projectile, and I wanted to update this to go at a speed of 200. Now you got to be careful with this, because anything that goes over the speed of 60 is probably going to clip through a lot of level geometry. So what you really want to do is actually then have this projectile inherit from fast projectile. So this is a special class used in UZDoom and UZDoom. And because of that, it actually already has the projectile combo flag, so we don't need this anymore. But this uses some special movement code to handle collision. It's very inefficient, unfortunately, but maybe I'll make another video on how to custom make your own projectiles that will be more efficient, but also take other collisions into account. So that way it'll move fast without having to rely on the very inefficient code for fast projectiles. But for the purposes of this project, fast projectile will do just fine. Alrighty. So with all that said, let's go and save and test this project to go and see what happens. Uh-oh. WRD no primary. Whoops. I totally messed that one up. We're gonna go back over here. Let me see. Yeah. It's supposed to be WRF. I mistyped that one. Whoops. Alright, we're gonna save that. We're gonna go back over here, and then we're gonna restart. Alrighty, it's working now. Give dual wield MG. Alright, perfect. So let's see. Fire. Nice. Oh, but hold on a sec. Alt-fire is not working. I do believe I know the problem here, but just give me one moment. I believe it's, let's see. Oh, yeah, that's it right there. I think. No. You can't fire during this time. And then it's... Oh, yeah, that's what I forgot. Oh, that's something that I forgot. So we need invoker.beAltFire to be over here as well. I cannot believe I did this. Okay, so there's there's what I forgot. We actually, what I had in my code was that I actually had it alt-fire as well. So alt-fire and fire are actually using the same exact state sequence right here. So both of these are so they'll do the same exact thing. So, and then it'll check if you're alt-firing, it'll check if you're alt-firing here. That would do it. Oh, that's beautiful. Alrighty, so that part works, and so this is a completely viable way to handle dual wielding if you want. It's not entirely independent operation, but it will come close, and you might find it to be a graceful solution for what you want. But we'll continue with the fully independent operation coming up. So a couple of notes that I wanted to bring about. So I actually recently learned that id Software had denoted one map unit to actually be about 1.5 inches. They said 8 units was a foot, right? So speed here denotes the amount of map units that a projectile will move in a tick, right? Through some research, I had found that people have calculated that the speed of sound is approximately 1,125 feet per second, right? 35 ticks are in a second. 8 units are in a foot, right? So we can actually do a little multiplication over here real quick. So if you want to follow along here, 1,125 feet per second times 8 maps units per foot instead of 12 inches. We get 9,000 map units, right? So a projectile is traveling at the speed of sound will travel about 9,000 map units per second, right? Then we want to get the tick rate so that way we can actually get the speed, right? So we'll divide this by 35. Oh my gosh. Let me do this again. 1125 times 8 divided by 35. There we go. Will equal about 257.142,857 map units per tick. This is about the speed that you'd want. So it looks like it will repeat every time. You got 142857, right? And then 142857, 142857. That's what'll happen if you go and divide that. This would be the exact speed of sound if you were to go and denote this in ZScript. So 200 map units is about 80% of the speed of sound, a little less than that, but it would be subsonic. And if you decided to go for 300 units per tick, then you'll get supersonic rounds. You'll start to get into past Mach 1 territory. So it's just a little cool note to denote. Also, the way that Proteus actually handled its SMGs, so this is essentially how it operates, firing and alt-firing the Shredder SMG weapon. But another thing that it does that I didn't account for here was that when you're holding down both of those fire buttons, then the bullets will start deviating wildly. It'll become very inaccurate to fire, right? So if you wanted to do that, then you'll probably need to mess around with some of the spread options here. Yeah, you'd have to start messing with the spread options that are in the fire bullets code over here. So horizontal, vertical, right? And that's it for that. Anyway, we're going to continue with the rest of the video, so stay seated. Or you can get up, pause the video, get a cool drink of water, and let's continue. Alright, so we're going to create a new directory. This is actually, so in a lot of projects, we actually there may be a lot of code involved, and a good way to organize your code is to create a folder where you can store all that stuff in different files. So that way you know where to go when you need to, when you're trying to look for something specific, instead of having to try to find the one line where the thing is. A lot of programmers do it. It's very messy. It's not very graceful. Anyway, we're going to go for ZScript. Alright? And what we're actually going to do here, we're going to create an entry. So you know what? I'm going to delete this. We're going to do a different way here. We're going to create a new entry. It's going to be called ZScript / Machine Gun Proteus. Just for the .txt. Just so that way we have this thing still in our code. We can still have this in our project for reference, you know? So when I do it this way, with that slash there, it's actually going to automatically... Oh, no, I missed something. Whoops. We'll go for Machine Gun Proteus.txt. Then this will be ZScript. Create. That will create the directory over there. Yeah, I'd forgotten that I can't do it that way anymore. Anyway, so that will create the directory immediately, and then creates the new marker over here, the new entry. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to copy from here, not this, but this, right? We're going to copy the weapon code, and we're going to copy the projectile code. We're going to leave this puff code over here. Oftentimes, and so what happens is that we actually use this ZScript text file, the main ZScript text file, for including other projects, right? Including all the other ZScript files that we're going to have in this folder. But occasionally, I will actually have some very basic overarching actors, such as this null puff, so that way they can be accessible to everything in the other ZScript files. Although that could easily be handled by just making that the very first file included within this list over here. But it's up to personal taste. If you want to be more organized, then you could do what I just said. But otherwise, you could actually just do what I do and just leave some of the stuff here. You know, it'll work either way, but it depends on how organized you want to be. Alright, let's continue. So we just cut all that stuff from there. We're going to paste it over here. View as text. Paste. Save. And then back over at the main ZScript file, we're going to go for include, quote, ZScript / machine gun Proteus.txt, end quote. So we'll save there. You'll see that it'll run again. Alright, so now we're going to move on to our actual machine gun. So we'll actually call it machinegun.txt. So we're going to remove this, so that way we can include that, and not have to include this one that we have here just for reference. Right? We're going to go and copy this. We're going to rename it. And then we'll continue from here. Okay, so let's see. Alrighty, so the first thing that we're actually going to want to do is add some new code to the ready state sequence, not ready loop, but we're going to do this TNT1A0. Actually, this will be something that will come later. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a bit. Let me see. Actually, you know what? I think we'll actually start to cover that. So, first off, we're actually going to I'm going to show you how you can add ammo to this thing, right? So you can make it so that way it can consume ammo. Because the way that I provided, it's not exactly very friendly to the ammo use functions that are already present there. So, we're going to make this thing run off of clip ammo, right? So weapon.ammo type is going to be clip. I'm going to have weapon.ammo give 200. That's the max default ammo. And then weapon.ammo use 1. Right? Okay. Then in the ready state sequence, well, I should have probably deleted this when I was trying to restart, but whatever. We can since we're continuing here. TNT1A0 if check ammo, not check ammo. Invoker.check ammo. Primary fire true. I'm gonna go for a overlay 3 fire. And this should be -3 over here. So what's happening here is that this is just checking if we actually have any ammo left in our inventory to be able to do the primary fire. And what was the last thing? Require ammo. Does it require? This will have us auto. So this other part that's true. It'll have us auto switch if this thing returns false. Alrighty. So we're continuing on. In the ready loop, we're going to put this into its own anonymous function. So we start with a weapon ready. Here we're going to have WRF no fire. And I'll explain why in a bit. If not this. If not invoker.checkAmmo, primary fire true. I should just say invoker.checkAmmo. If not invoker.checkAmmo for the primary fire. And then we'll have these go to null. This way we can actually get this to happen. Well, actually, no. This way we won't get it to continue firing from here because we're putting the fire state sequence onto a different layer altogether. Okay, so again for this version, we're actually going to remove alt fire from this altogether. we're going to do something kind of cool over here. TNT 1A jump if overlay ID is equal to 3 and get player input buttons bitwise and BT attack, or I'm going to copy all this and hopefully make sure to change everything that we need. Overlay, yeah, that's something I forgot. This needs to be a function, this needs to be a function, this needs to be -3. We're still doing input buttons over here for this check, but this one's going to be BT alt attack. And that's the end of the check. So if this is true, we're going to have it jump one state. So to the next state. Because here we're going to have a wait keyword. Then we're going to have this go to TNT1A4. Right? And now instead of invoker.altFire, we want altFire to be put onto overlay -3. So we're actually going to have that be this check over here. See? Input buttons alt attack, overlay ID is -3. So instead of this, we're going to have this. So of course, like I was saying before, we actually had 2 overlays generated over here. And so they're basically 2 of the same exact state sequence here. And so one's going to be on one overlay, the other's going to be on the other overlay. And again, the other overlay is the altFire overlay will actually have will be at -3. So then we'll continue with this. Okay. We're not going to have this in here, so we'll get rid of that. And we don't need this in here either. And with that, we also don't need any of this. So each of these is going to take 4 ticks to actually operate, right? And that should actually conclude it. Let me see. Let's go test this real quick. I believe that this is actually all there is to it. Wait, no, there was actually something else I wanted to add. I forgot. So I said that we were going to have this thing run off of some ammo, right? So let's see. It was over here. Right, here are the flags. So we're going to add the FBF_use ammo flag over here. And then in order for this thing to work properly, we're going to have this, instead of 1 - 2 times invoker.baltFire, we're going to have this be multiplied by the value of overlay ID divided by the absolute value of overlay ID. We don't need that one. We won't need that one. So what's going to happen here is that if the overlay, so it'll multiply and it'll be divided by itself essentially, except if the overlay ID is 3, then this will be 3, this will be 3, and then 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1. If you have if the overlay ID is going to be negative, so like with -3, then this will be -3, this will be 3, because it's the absolute value, so that -3 divided by 3 is going to be -1. And then we multiply this number, 13, by 1, or -1, and that will then make the offset either 13 or -13, depending on which button you're pressing. That way it will come from either of the guns. Okay, so I think that might be it right there. Let me see. I'm just checking around. I think I'm in case I'm missing something. Let me see. All right. So yeah, I wanted to come back. I wanted to circle back to this. So for a weapon ready, we're calling WRF no fire because we're actually not wanting the primary weapon layer, which would be 1, the layer 1. We don't want it to be doing anything, right? Otherwise it could cause some weird issues. So instead of actually firing normally, we're actually going to be firing from these overlays, from the overlays that are over here, that we just initialized over here. And when that happens, and then whenever we press our buttons, well, we actually initialize these overlays to be ready over here. So we actually have, so that way we could actually do it after this tick delay, which would be happening because of the raise animation. We wanted to wait until the raise animation that we defined before to be completed first, right? And we don't want it to be firing, and then we also don't want it to be firing while we're deselecting either. So when we're doing the lower animation. So actually, I think I might have overlooked something in my completed solution, but we'll go and try to figure that out in a bit. In any case, I think that we actually have everything that I had up until that point, but let's go and see how robust, let's see how well this works. Okay. Now that's weird. It's not firing anything more. Oh, I think I forgot something. Yep, I did forget something. These are supposed to just loop. And that's it. Okay. Now it should work. Wait, why did I say go to? I just realized. Why did I say go to loop? We just want it to loop. There we go. Let's summon it this time. Summon dual wield. If I can type MG. There we go. Beautiful pickup. Look at that thing. Alrighty, now let's test it out. Nice. And you can see that it's taking ammo from the... You can see that it's taking ammo from over here. So, now we're at 182. And now I'm holding both. Right? And it's firing from either... And then you can choose to stagger fire it as you want. You can do it unevenly. It'll still be staggered, but you can do it however you want there. See? Aha. Yeah, so that's the robust thing that I was worried about that I didn't catch before. So you can still fire while deselecting, which is not good, but there's a way we can actually go and fix that. Okay, so we're just gonna go copy these, and we're gonna put them up here. And that should do it. See? Ain't that beautiful? So then if I go and press fire and then alt fire at different intervals instead of at the same time, then I can get it to stagger fire too. And then I got it to go and deselect automatically once I ran out of ammo. Let me see. There's a clip over here, right? Yep. Now I can reselect that. I can reselect this. Yep. Sweet. Now I want to spam, so I'm gonna go for SV Infinite Ammo 1. I hate spending ammo, so I'm just gonna go for the communist solution of free ammo for everyone. And that ought to do it. I actually thought that this was going to take a little bit longer because of, well, the amount of stuff that I had to change in order to get this thing to work before. I was trying to experiment with other solutions, and this seemed to be the only one that would work. But I thought it was going to be a lot more involved, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that there wasn't much that changed between the first version that I showed you and this version that we have here now. This version we needed to use for absolute independent operation of the weapons, so that way we can actually, because this is important that we do it this way, because this will set up for the third and final part of this series, independent operation of any two firearms that you have in your inventory. We're going to specially set up some other weapons for that It'll be fun. But we're going to especially set up other weapons for this, so that way I can show you a new way that I've been developing to be able to select any two weapons and then switch between them. So I very much look forward to showing that to you guys, and hopefully I can get that done soon and recorded soon after. And I'll see you guys in the next video, I guess. Or you'll hear me in the next video. If you like this video and want to see more, you want to be notified of new videos, feel free to subscribe. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a like. And I got links and my coffee in the description below. I'm going to be, as usual, I'm going to provide the completed set of files in the downloads below. And yeah, that should do it. This has been DoomKrakken, and I look forward to the next video. Take care, guys.